the Serrano Show on the New Jersey Pulse News. We're here in the city of Newark, New Jersey with Councilman Darrin Sharif. And you have an election coming up, so we wanted to sit down and talk to you about that election. So, I come to the city election council meetings. You sit very quietly most of the times, but then every once in a while you explode. Tell me something that ticks you off, that would get you to get off your...
Well, I think the only time that I can remember exploding was November the 20th. And I think not only did I explode, but 3 other of my council colleagues and probably everybody in the council chamber exploded. And that was the whole discussion, a discussion that happened unknowing to us until it started to happen, of the filling of the vacancy of the seat vacated by now Congressman Donald Payne. But other than that, I get annoyed when we don't do the people's business or some matters around the budget. And we're discussing the budget now, and I'm annoyed that we haven't had the mayor's spending plan. But most of the time that I'm there, 90% of the items on the council agenda, they're non-controversial. And I review those items, contracts and other services with my staff. I ask the appropriate questions of the department directors prior to the meeting. So there are very few surprises at the actual council meeting. We do a lot of discussion in our pre-council meeting.
Tell me about the 10%.
Well, the 10% are contracts that are like EUS contracts, special extraordinary contracts. That
EUS is?
Extraordinary services that don't go up for public bidding. And those are contracts, we don't get them a lot. Or when there are contracts that happen through emergency contracts, things that are out of the ordinary. But again, like 90% of the business is just to provide basic services. And
when I came to this meeting, I didn't want to do a lot of background on you.
Right.
Because I know there's a lot of negativity in this election.
Right.
There's violence, there's threats,
Right.
there's bus burning.
Right.
So I wanted to get on your good side to find out about you first, and then there may be a couple of questions, because I did make a phone call or two.
So there you go.
But we'll leave that till the end. I want to know about you. How long have you been in elected office?
Just 4 years. This is my first term. But I was born in Newark, raised in Newark, always have been involved in public service in one capacity or another. But this is the first term of elected office serving the great residents of the Central Ward.
And you want a second term and so forth?
I want a second term. We made a lot of important investments our first 4 years. We want to continue to build on those investments and to deepen the relationships that we established with some of the institutional and other stakeholders in the Central Ward.
What made you want to run for public office?
It's a natural and logical progression from what I've done all along in Newark. Prior to this job, I was Director of Operations for the Urban League of Essex County, and that's one of the most respected and storied public service organizations in the entire country. But we did a lot of great work in Newark, in the Central Ward. A lot of the things that we did, providing services, job training, leveraging partnerships. I wanted to borrow from the great stuff that we did at the Urban League, and we've done that to great success in my last 4 years here in the Central Ward.
So you saw the danger in the city council chamber, and you think you could handle that, so you decided, I want to get in there.
Well, I knew, we have an awesome responsibility, and we have a tremendous amount of power.
As a city council?
As a city council person. Mm-hmm. But other than our statutory responsibility, which is twofold, we're legislators, and the second thing we do is adopt the budget once it's introduced by the administration. But the power of a council person in the Central Ward, given that a significant amount of cities' assets and resources are in the Central Ward, the power that we have at our disposal, it really is probably unprecedented, and you can't find that power in any of the other 4 wards. All 5 universities are in the Central Ward. The biggest corporations are in the Central Ward. So you can, as I have, be a convener, connector, and a facilitator, bringing these stakeholders together, coming up with a strategic plan to attack some of the issues that have existed in our city for a very long time. And that's what I've focused my attention on over the last 4 years.
What part did you play in bringing in all these entities?
Well, in terms of, let's start with the development. Over the last 4 years, there have been $500 million worth of economic development activity in the Central Ward. Through 2015, there'll be another $1.2 billion. The mayor and the municipal council, we have to work together. The administrative function is in the area of business attraction, but once they make contact with a business, almost right after they make that contact, they meet with the ward council people, and we work with them to make sure that when they come here, the temporary jobs that come through construction, the permanent jobs that result after they complete the project, we work very, very closely with the developers. And the outgoing Mayor Booker, now Senator Booker, will tell you, and he told people at ribbon cuttings or groundbreakings, that it is a very important partnership between the administration and the council. And I was happy to be in this seat when a lot of that development happened in the ward. So I'm very, very proud to play an important role in a lot of the development, which will result in thousands of jobs.
Yet, although you say that, there was a fight that took place between Booker and the council that was constantly happening. How did you get past all those fights to get this done?
Well, that's not unique to local government. I mean, we see, and that's played out at least over the time that Barack Obama has been in office. When you have divided government, that check and balance, that's a necessary part of a democratic process. Sometimes it can get overly divisive and overly political, but our founding fathers at the federal level and versions of that at the state and local level, it's important. You know, imagine if you just had a mayor who was an emperor, where his power was not checked.
Well, Corey was considered an emperor.
Well, I will leave that to you to make a characterization.
No, I heard it. You know, I hear it all the time at the council meetings. You know, book of this, book of that, and King Booker and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you don't see it that way. You see something.
No, and this is the way I would sum it up. When I ran for office 4 years ago, I was campaigning in a part of the Central Ward, and I knocked on a door. A person who was a big Cory Booker supporter was not satisfied with the representation they got from then Councilman Bell, who was the Central Ward councilperson, said to me, Darrin, hands down, you would make a better Central Ward councilperson than Mr. Bell, but I'm a big Booker fan, and I understand that you're running against his slate. What assurance do I have that if I vote for you, you won't go back to City Hall with an axe to grind? I said that's an important but an easy question for me to answer, and my response was simply this: when the mayor does things that moves our great city forward, he won't find a person who will be a bigger cheerleader. But when the mayor does something that's questionable, I think, and I said to this resident, that's why you want me there, to be independent. When you look at my voting record, those things that I supported and those things that I've opposed, I really answered that question, and I lived out that commitment and responsibility. The biggest thing that I was in opposition to when I came into office in 2010 was the MUA, or the Municipal Utility Authority. I thought it was bad public policy to fill our budget gap with about $100 million. I think that's what they proposed to fill it. Horrible public policy, but that we should do the right thing, not to privatize those functions, but to bring them in-house. And so I oppose that. But a lot of the development that's happened in the city, especially in the Central Ward, that was good for our city, it was good for the ward, it's going to result in a lot of jobs, and I was happy to support it, even in the face of people who didn't like Corey for reasons that I can't explain, and they attacked me. They wanted me to be against every single thing that the mayor was for, but that's not my responsibility. It's to look at every single thing and evaluate it on its merit. And I think a lot of the residents in the Central Ward who are fair and open-minded will see exactly that's how I served out my term.
So you think because people personally didn't like Corey for whatever reason, when it comes to voting and making decisions, it was better for the city if you voted to move something forward?
Oh, sure.
You've had personal grudges.
Yeah, you've heard. You have residents who have that view, but then you have residents who've adopted the view and have applauded the things that I've supported that have moved the city forward. But that's the great thing about democracy. And one of my council colleagues said democracy is important. And sometimes it gets messy. Sometimes it gets overly messy. But I've tried to stay focused. And I think that's what you kind of alluded to, that most of the council meetings, I don't get caught up into things that aren't productive. And I just try to stay focused on what's on the agenda. If somebody comes to the microphone during hearing of citizens and has a concern about it, if they direct that concern or question to me to the best of my ability, I try to respond to it. But I as a council person, there are 55,000 residents in the Central Ward, probably 33,000 of those are registered voters, and you cannot make a decision that satisfies all 55,000. I never ever take it personally when people come and they express their frustration or disappointment in the decision that I make. I try to listen to all the information and make the most important, the most informed decision I can on the matters that come before me.
What do you think about Cory Booker?
I know that he cared about the city. There are policies that I don't agree with. Even economic development, it could have and should have been more balanced and what I call parallel economic development not only downtown, but development in the neighborhood as well. I think he could have taken a more strategic approach to development. When I was in the race for mayor, I said if I was mayor, and I still would advocate for this, whoever becomes the mayor, to have what I call a department or an office of community and civic engagement. When Cory came into office in 2010, he held a series of transition meetings at NGIT, and he said civic engagement and outreach was so important to him that he would relegate an office or a division to it. That never happened. So there are things that candidates say when they run that they don't do when they govern. Why he didn't follow up on that and other important things, you'll have to ask him that.
Why is that so important?
Civic engagement, that is the greatest challenge that we face. There's nothing that we do in this building in a serious way that engages people and gets them involved. This year, if you listen to the state, our budget deficit could be as high as $50 million. If you listen to the administration, 30. That's still a big gap in resources that we have to figure out where we're going to get that money from. But when you look at a lot of the problems that we face in our community, they don't lend themselves to a dollar and cent solution. So we have to figure out a way, a real serious civic engagement strategy to engage what I believe is a untapped and underutilized resource, and that's a resource that a resident has. I found out over the last 4 years that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people want to help, but they don't know their point of entry, they don't know how to get involved. And that's what I rely on my experience at the Urban League, because that's what we were all about, civic and community engagement. And
you think that organization would have helped them and be engaged with the government more?
Well, no. I think there are best practices and things that happen at an organization like the Urban League, like OCASA, like Aspira, that if the administration was smart, they could have learned from and they could have implemented them on a citywide level.
Why can't you do that now? Do you have to be mayor to do that?
No. So that's what we've done. If you look at the civic engagement activities that we've done, from our 5 building-based computer labs and learning centers in at-risk and underserved communities that politicians never go to because they said people in those communities don't likely vote, or they don't vote at a high percentage like senior citizens. So we've made those investments. We've beautified vacant lots, turned them into beautiful gardens, but beyond the inherent value of a garden, now those lots where people come together, that can be the building blocks of community organizing. You don't have to be a mayor to do that. We've proven that we can do that without being a mayor. But to be a mayor, right, your purview is now not one board, it's the entire city. And your ability to leverage and identify resources at a higher level would make you can accelerate that process, and it would be
I'm sorry, you can lobby the administration to say, look, we're doing this, we want it to be done. But you can still do it, right?
Sure, and I will still do it. Whoever the mayor is, I still will do it. And so those things that I wanted to do as mayor, that I had already been involved in my 4 years on the council, those are an essential part of the overall strategy, right? To get more people involved, to get them to volunteer their resources, to tap into more assets, to bring the community of stakeholders together. residents are the most important stakeholder, but in our central ward, we have institutional stakeholders like our universities, like Prudential, like Verizon, Horizon. You know, we have developers who we've done very creative things beyond the development project with our developers. And so I'm going to encourage this incoming administration. One of the big reasons I ran from there, and you look at both platforms now, there's very little that is talked about in terms of civic and community engagement in a detailed way that would make a person who really understands the value of it or who has participated in it say, yes, this person gets it.
Why'd you drop out?
Unfortunately, and we just had a second Supreme Court decision which tried to limit the influence of super PACs and large donations from special interest groups. Unfortunately, at the federal, state, and local level, big money and big interest groups, that is a big part of elections. And people would argue that that's free speech. But
they did argue and they won.
Right. And unfortunately, the way it is used sometimes is to push narrow agendas. And it takes resources to get your message out. We came to the race, I think, the last to be in the race, August the 27th or around there. And by then, the Jeffries campaign, they had raised a lot of money. The Baraka campaign, they had picked up steam. And then they picked up endorsements from unions and other interest groups. And the Ramos campaign.
So it was a financial setback for you not to run for mayor?
Oh, that's, yeah. And
so if I would have said, look, I'm going to give you $3 million right now, would you run for mayor?
Now.
Well, I mean, back then.
Right, that would have been a
that.
different consideration.
So you still have that burning desire that you can be in a position to make changes.
Well, I always want to serve our city.
But
and hopefully now I'll serve in the capacity of a re-elected Central Ward Council person. What's going to happen in 2018? I'm not looking at that far ahead.
I wish I had met you before you dropped out, because if you look at the race with Joey Torres and Patterson and
right.
Jeffrey Jones, Jeffrey had like $50,000 and Joey had $1 million, and Jeffrey won.
Right.
Well, he won because there was a major dissatisfaction with what was going on, and I remember my newspaper published Take Your Government Back, and we endorsed Jeffrey.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. But I went to the black community and I said, take your government back, and they did, and he won. So well, you know, it's neither here nor
there.
Right,
and so, you know, I don't know. There are a lot of factors that.
But the fact is, right now, you still had that burning desire. The only reason you dropped out is because they financially got in the game ahead of you.
Right, and we weren't able to raise the resources to build an infrastructure and organization across all 5 wards and to be able to get our message out to a vast number of people.
But you still have a message.
Yeah, we still have a message.
Okay.
Still have a message.
What do you think about the current mayor? Quintana?
Well, he came in, right. And so it really is a challenge, right, when you come in during an unfinished term of a mayor. I mean, he hasn't made any monumental decisions that would depart from the outgoing mayor in terms of economic development and
promoted some offices.
Right, so he's made, right, and so I'm not going to, you know, because a lot of people are making a lot of hay about that, but he hasn't made any fundamental, profound decisions that are different than the outgoing mayor. So to that degree, he's been kind of, he uses the word gatekeeper.
So he's holding the fort.
Right, so he uses the word gatekeeper. Right. I like to say caretaker.
Right.
And so, and he understands. And I hope that he respects the fact that that he won't change a lot, because it wouldn't be fair to the incoming mayor, whoever that is. Because that mayor is going to have to inherit, a government. So to move a lot of people around, to make a lot of big changes, knowing that you're not running for re-election, right? That there could be a rationale if he's running for re-election. He said, I'm making these important decisions because I expect to serve out a full term. But he stated from the outset that his only interest was to be a caretaker, and the statute triggered what the council had to act on after Mayor Booker.
Because he's rerunning for his own seat.
Right, so he's rerunning for at large.
Right, so
yes.
it basically all he could do is just sit there, unless he wants to make a major statement and say, hey,
right.
I'm going to make it.
So maybe
I want to bring in, Verizon in here. I want to bring in, whatever.
Thinking that it would help his re-election bid.
Right. So he's just like sitting there and saying, hey, I'm just going to hold this down and run there.
Right.
When they could have, used that as a platform to say, I'm going to do something huge here
right.
to show I'm here, I'm there, I'm good.
Right.
He didn't do that.
Right. And I am frustrated, and I think we said this earlier in the interview, that it's taken so long for his administration to give us the budget. Wherever I go,
Well, that's right. He's in charge of the budget.
He's in charge of the budget. So I am very frustrated and disappointed that it's taken us so long. We haven't gotten it yet, and today, as we did this taping, it's April the 4th. I asked the question 3 days ago at our pre-council meeting of the business administrator, realistically, does he think we'll be able to get the spending plan before the election? He assured us, Judy Niels, that we will get it at the end of this month, at the end of April. That remains to be seen.
But just remember, you're looking at a councilman here,
Right.
who is sitting in a massive seat, the largest city in New Jersey. So do you really expect that a councilman can walk in here in this giant dome and take this giant budget and a different mentality? Because I know he's been a councilman, but he has a different, you're now looking at the world through this instead of from the other side. Do you think he's capable of handling that?
Well,
Knowing him on the city council.
Well, two things. One, he was and will be, if he's reelected, the most senior member on the municipal council. So I would argue that he's seen a few budgets in his time. So if he was just new, just dropped in from, as a result of not having been elected, I could follow right where you're going with that. But he's seen a lot of budgets. Two, probably 85% of the personnel that existed when Mayor Booker was in office, who dealt with 7 budgets. This will be the 8th budget under Booker administration if he was still here. Those people were still in place. So key people like Darlene Tate, who's director of the Office of Management and Budget, Julian Niels, who makes the decision that runs the city on a daily basis. Those key personnel are still here, and they're not, I don't think, radical personnel changes that are going to happen this year versus last year. I don't think any of that's going to happen.
But you have a functioning mayor who was Cory Booker. He took everything and put it together, even though these people ran the show. He was the one, the deciding factor of what should be the deals.
People would argue the opposite. People would argue that
he was just sitting in
more time out of town. And that, so you're making my case, right? So people would say he spent more time, and he got beat up an awful lot in the paper. Spent more time out of the city, and when he was out of the city, those 2 individuals that I mentioned, Judge Niels and Darlene Tate, they were here.
So they were basically the mayor.
Well, they made sure the government ran every day, and those 2 people are available to Mayor Quintana. So there should be no reason that we shouldn't get the budget to be able to at least trigger the budget hearings and have people talk about.
There's good and bad being said about Cory Booker, but I still think at some point we have to say if this guy sat on the helm of everything, even though he had these 2 people, and ultimately made decisions to say, I'm not going to let this go forward, I'm going to let this go forward. And whether or not he was influenced by himself or people who were influencing him, that still took place. So now you have Quintana here, and he's sitting in that seat now. So even though you have these 2 people in front of him telling him, let's lay this out like this, he still has to hit with the horse and say, let it go.
Well, the buck stops with the chief executive.
Okay.
And the buck stopped with the mayor. And I respect Mayor Quintana. I assume that decisions aren't acting, well, he's the interim mayor, so he's the mayor.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes. Not for legally, he's our mayor.
Right.
And I would never disrespect him and to say that the buck didn't stop with him and that people are making decisions without his authorization. When he took that oath of office, after we voted for him to be the interim mayor, and I made comments that I felt comfortable voting for him to be interim mayor because he had extensive experience in local and municipal government. So I don't think that people are making decisions for him, and the buck stops with him. And he would.
What advice would you have for him? What would you tell him?
Give me the budget. Give me the budget, Mayor. Give me that budget.
And you want it now.
I wanted it yesterday. Now it's too late.
Let's talk about you. Why do you think you should be reelected?
Well, the greatest.
Besides the good look, when I look at the city council, I said this is the GQ of the city council. And I looked at you, and you would sit up there, oh boy, what was this guy about? So let me ask you about.
Because the proof is in the pudding. Our work speaks for itself. And this is the greatest re-election campaign to have. When I ran for election 4 years ago, my campaign slogan was building partnerships for change. It wasn't something that I pulled out of the air. I thought very carefully about what I wanted to do if I was fortunate enough to represent the Central Ward. That's exactly what we did. Every single community-based initiative, not just the big development downtown, because I know people are taking shots at me, well, you know, all the stuff happened downtown, but these computer labs and resources that we brought to at-risk communities, these lots, $1 million investment that we're making into an education center. These are the things that originated from my office. These are the things that you can look, you can touch, you can feel, you can talk to people. 4 years of free classes at Science Park High School. I don't know, and I say this in all due respect to a lot of council people who have occupied these buildings, if you said to them, outside of things that you work with the administration on, I'm very proud to play a part in those things, but how have you leveraged your office to identify resources outside of city government? I would be interested to see what those responses are. And I took full advantage of all the assets and the resources and the stakeholders available in the Central Ward. So where 4 years ago my slogan was building partnerships for change, this slogan now is let's continue the progress. Where we did 5 computer labs last year, I want to do 10 in the next 4 years. No council person has ever traveled to MIT. That's our number 1 technical school in this country. To forge a partnership.
Is that in New York?
That's in Boston, Massachusetts, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
IT.
They're one of the 5 top institutions in the entire world. And do you know, in my Center for Human Development and Civic Engagement, hundreds and hundreds of kids, not just in the Central Ward, but all in Newark, they will learn how to program using a programming language called Scratch, created by MIT.
So you went there to bring something back.
Yes.
To Newark. So you make an extra effort to go out there, find out what's available, bring it back to your ward specifically, and then benefit Newark in itself.
Yes.
Okay, so you have a history of things that you have done independently, and a history of things that you have done with the administration. Some you probably regret, and some you're probably blessed. And then, so you're asking the community to let you continue what you started. Don't change lawyers in the middle of a trial.
Well, right. Well, or don't, when you find a formula that works and it produces, and you could measure and you could see it, why would you change the formula?
Well, no, judges have this thing, that's why I use that. When you try to change a lawyer in the middle of a trial, they say
right,
no.
Exactly right.
Especially if you're winning.
If you're winning, right? And you wake up the next day and said, we're really, kicking butt here. You get out. Get this person in, who I don't know about.
Right, and they go. So you're asking the community to be the judge and say, look, don't change your lawyer in the middle of a good trial where you're winning, things are happening, and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So here's my question.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So is it a grocery store? Is it ShopRite? Right?
ShopRite. Yes.
What is the store?
ShopRite. It's where we can't, and it's right there. It's right here. It's a big.
Is it this thing
right through here. And this is great. We can zoom it in, and it's this thing. This big plot of land. This is 11 acres. This is Springfield Avenue, South Orange Avenue, Prince Street, and Jones Street. And people who have lived in Newark for quite some time, over 30 years, this has been vacant. Mm-hmm. And there have been attempts to develop on this land. When I came into office, there were negotiations going on, and I was happy and proud to be a part of what this development is. But it's not only going to be the ShopRite. We're going to have 152 units of market rate housing, 2 restaurants, and a bank. And so I'm very, very proud we're able to bring the ShopRite. Because I go.
The question is when.
Oh, we're going to break ground in another few weeks.
Oh, so
before this election,
you're going to be breaking ground in your ShopRite.
You're going to see all these earth moving machines. Oh yeah, this is going to happen. I go to Kearney to get my groceries, and I meet so many Central Ward residents in Kearney who are frustrated that they have to go to Kearney. Well, there's not I don't want to get myself into a suit. There are some shabby grocery stores or one shabby supermarket on Bergen Street that I'm hoping that when this ShopRite is built, either that shabby supermarket on Bergen Street, close
Is that
to
in your ward?
South Orange Avenue. Yes, it's in my ward.
And you don't like him?
I don't like it.
Was it a cleanliness issue? Was it a violation? What's going on?
It's a disrespect of the community issue. You know, community, the people who go in there with their hard-earned dollars have to pay for things, and they should operate that place on that basis. And you know, food is the expiration date. You know, you go in and you buy milk, and it's close to the expiration date. The array, the selection, the presentation.
If all this is happening and it's in your ward, have you sent inspectors in there to make sure things are being done?
Oh yeah, we send inspectors down for that, but for a number of things, and things that they should be cited for, they're cited for. But at the end of the day, I think
you want your grocery, this grocery store to be. I guess this is ShopRite. They're very clean. They're very high end. So you want to bring that into your ward.
Yeah.
Well, you are bringing it.
Yeah, and it's terrific. And the owner, Neil Greenstein, he owns and operates a ShopRite in Bloomfield, Brookdale, and that is fabulous, fabulous. And if you walk into that ShopRite in Brookdale, he promises that this ShopRite is going to be better. And then walk into that supermarket on Bergen Street. So what I hope will happen, this is the greatest thing about this great nation, this capitalist country, right? It's all about competition. I'm hoping that people will walk with their feet, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll bring their dollars to a place that appreciates them and respects them.
And you know the owner of this one, and you think that's what happened. You know the owner of the other one, you don't think
and
that
hasn't happened, because when you think you're the only game in town,
right.
And for a while they were, there was no pressure. And sometimes pressure is a good thing.
When would this be completed?
Before 2015. Before 2015, all the
around Christmas time?
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
2014?
No, not 2014 Christmas. This will be I'm hoping that the ShopRite will be complete by maybe Easter 2015.
It seems like the property is a clean property. It wasn't just a picture.
Well, no. So this is, if you went there today,
right?
It's just
broken down
grass and all that stuff.
So it doesn't look as nice as it.
No, this is the rendering, but this is how it will look once they level it out.
Okay.
Right, this is after.
Okay.
This is after.
This looks like UCLA or something.
Right. So it's beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
So it's going to be beautiful, but right now it's not. So I see a shop right now, Walmart. What's the story with that?
Right. Well, that place.
I heard that you took some flack for Walmart.
Well,
trying to bring in Walmart in with the unions.
Well, so this is what I would say, and that's why it was important for me to say that this 11 acres had been vacant for over 30 years. There are residents who wanted a number of development projects on that vacant land, and the way development works, the city, their business attraction unit, they try to lure big box developers here. And big box developers, they have their own set of criteria that they check off. Like Walmart, like Barnes & Noble, like all the big box ones. There's a big convention, in fact, every year in Las Vegas. And the city, their economic team, they go there and they make the best pitch possible, the city of Newark, and they try to get them here. Now, a developer and a big box, based on what their own needs are, their own criteria, they will say, right? Walmart had expressed an interest to come to Newark, where prior to the Walmart deal that didn't happen, there were a lot of right. And earlier on, like
was it your ward too?
Yeah, it was on the same. It was on the same. We're talking about the same plot of land.
Okay.
So before this land was purchased by the Tucker Corporation, it was owned by some other developers, and they tried to get developments started. And for whatever reason, I wasn't a council person then. Those developments didn't happen. But on my watch, the administration had engaged Walmart, and then they
Booker's administration.
Okay. And when it was close to doing a deal with Walmart, right, they let me know about it, and then I got a lot of flack, as you said. And my response was, and I said this to Walmart, and there was no other deal on the table, so it wasn't as if, and this is important, I'm glad you brought this up, it wasn't as if, right, it was ShopRite Because years ago, I'm told, ShopRite was not willing to pay the per square footage amount to make the deal happen, or to pencil it out, as developers refer to it. So that broke down. So there was no ShopRite on the scene at that point.
So before you came into office.
Right, exactly. So, and the only deal when I was in office that was on the table as an anchor tenant, and you have to get the anchor tenant to get the rest of the development interested. And Walmart said to me, and I said to them, I said, you have to know, if the Walmart is built, I'm going to be out there with a picket sign, right, protesting and forcing you to increase wages. But the reality that I faced as a Central Ward council person was over 25% unemployment. Hundreds of people come to my office and they're looking for jobs. So for the people who said, well, Walmart, they only offer part-time jobs. They're more than enough, right? Part-time
Better than nothing.
Right, exactly, right?
But then the unions want to kill you on the other side.
Right, so the unions wanted to kill me, but I represent unemployed people who are desperate for work. I don't represent unions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I said to the unions. Walmart did a poll. They said, well, Councilman, and this is when we thought that Walmart was going to come. Over 70% of the people responding to the poll wanted the Walmart to come. And I knew that was true.
These are working people who are looking for jobs.
Yes. Working people looking for jobs, working people who travel outside of Newark to Walmart to get their goods and services.
Okay.
And I knew that because I went to the Walmart on 22 in Union.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time I went to the Walmart, because they had these great $5 DVDs,
Mm-hmm.
somebody would yell, Councilman Sharif. So I knew it wasn't somebody from Union.
Right.
And when I would say to that person in the Walmart in Union, what do you think about a Walmart in Newark? They would say to me, Councilman Sharif, they're coming to Newark. I get it and understand that there are people in Newark who didn't want the Walmart. But they have to be honest that there are tons and tons of people that would have loved that Walmart. At some point, Walmart looked at the way the deal was being financed and they walked away. They didn't leave. There are people who would have you believe that they drove Walmart out. The way the financing of the deal was put together, they were uncomfortable about some of the things they were being required to do, so they left.
Such as?
At that point, well, I mean, the people who were investing in the deal, because it's not just, to make a development deal happen, there are a lot of investors,
right,
pension
and they want this,
private
and they
equity,
want that,
right. And so I wasn't privy to the nitty-gritty of the deal. That's what I was told. When Walmart walked away, there was an opportunity now for ShopRite to come back. But here,
on the same property.
On the same property.
Okay.
But this is important for people to understand, because my detractors will never be honest and share this truth. Years ago, prior to me coming, when ShopRite was unwilling to pay close to $17 a square foot, when Walmart walked away, ShopRite said, you know what? We were only willing to pay $8 a square foot. Now we're willing to pay close to $17 a square foot. And all the stars aligned, and I was happy, and I'm thrilled. That
So now you're getting
ShopRite
17?
So that's what made the deal happen, and that's what was required in order for the financing to make sense. So that's why we're having the ShopRite here, and I'm happy to have the ShopRite here. And meeting Neil Greenstein, the operator, the owner of the ShopRite, he's a tremendous individual, and the things that they are going to do with the community beyond providing goods and services, I think people will be happy to welcome Neil to the Newark family.
When is the groundbreaking? Is there a date and time yet?
It will be, I'll let you know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be before the May election.
Okay, we'll actually post that on New Jersey Pulse
Right.
Website as well. Besides the ShopRite, what have you done? Let's just go with that part of it. What have you done other than the ShopRite?
So we have, and people remember the old Newark screens on Springfield Avenue and Bergen Street when it was horrible. The Shaquille O'Neal and Bourret developers, they totally redid that. I was instrumental in getting them much needed city financing and subsidy for that project. Now you can go to CityPlex 12, that's what it's called now, in his phenomenal movie theater. Our residents had to go out to Jersey Gardens, they had to go to West Orange, they had to go on 22.
How'd you get that in here?
Now they could come. It really was Shaquille O'Neal in the city talking together.
Shaquille O'Neal,
the basketball player,
right?
And them coming to
He lives here.
He has family that lives in Newark.
I believe he's been here a few times.
He's been there, and yeah, I've been embraced by him, and I've disappeared because he's a massive of a person. But the important thing about that, I also was instrumental in bringing the Urban League of Essex County. They had a painting program that trained Newark residents. Every single square foot of City Flex 12 was painted by the workers in the Urban League painting program. So again, it really is having relationships with community organizations, doing great things for our residents, and putting them together with enlightened and progressive developers like Shaquille O'Neal and Wasim Boré from Boré Development. So that's a development in the neighborhood, and residents are thrilled. They love going to the neighborhood.
Let's go. I want to get to your opponents, but I want to run down some things pretty quick in less than a minute. Crime.
Right.
Has it been? Was crime increased, decreased under you?
Well, I don't even. I would never be an irresponsible politician because there are politicians that pander all the time. That if you elect me, I'm going to reduce the crime rate. That's an insult to the intelligence of people, right? Crime is a more complicated issue. It's a function of our lack of investment, quite honestly, in our people and the distressed neighborhoods that they live. It is unlikely that the kind of crime that we've experienced emanates from more stable parts of our community. And so,
let's talk about your ward.
Right.
When somebody says, I'm going to reduce crime, you think that, well, you can't dress up like Batman or Captain America and go out there.
Right.
But you are a councilman or want to be a councilman. From that position, how would you stop or prevent or bring in something to decrease?
I say we work even more closely with our police department, and I respect the job that Director Coley does. I respected the job that Director DeMeo did.
Who's now resigned.
Who now resigned. With the limited amount of resources that they have to be able to deploy and to get every ounce of productivity out of those resources, I respect that. And I'm never going to go in front of a group of people just because somebody's going to clap for me and denigrate the hard work of our police officers and the great work that the overwhelming majority of them do. But and the collaborations that they have with the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, sometimes the state police, they coordinate operations, and even now with our university police. But at the same time as and most of the work they do, right, it is data driven. So they look at where the crime occurs and they deploy those assets. But at the same time that you do that, you have to make the investments that we talked about earlier in this interview. So if you don't do something as simple but as important as clean up a vacant lot, that's a whole broken windows theory, right? You get more vacant lots. If you don't bring people more out, the greater numbers of people on the street, that over time is most powerful deterrent to crime. Crime existed long before I came to the Central Ward, and I would argue that the investments that we've made, if other council people made those investments 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we'd be sitting here, I would venture to say, having a very different conversation about the state of affairs in the city of Newark, in those areas where crime is off the hook.
So you let the cops do their job, and you do your job.
Right, and then we coordinate together. We had a great police captain who we lost to the Port Authority, Captain Stephen Yablonsky. Residents loved him. He was a captain, and he chased down and locked up bad guys, but he was a true community organizer. So he knew where all the players were because he policed. So he knew of a community group that would need resources, and he would bring the owner of the Wendy's on Springfield Avenue to meet with his community group. So that's
the one that got shot?
No, the
IHOP got shot. That's
right.
Not even your
No.
So, okay.
Yeah. So that is. So that's what we need. We need the.
Why would you bring the owner of Wendy's in the community?
Well, because he met a group, for example, that meant well to do a community activity.
Do we know the name of
but
it?
They lack the resources.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, you're doing great things. I know the owner, Mr. King, Bernard King, who owns Wendy's. He's a great guy." So he facilitated the meeting. Bernard King listened to the great work this small community group did and said, yeah, I can write a check. So that's one small example.
Oh,
of the
okay,
great
so
stuff
he's
that
getting
they
into
did.
finances.
Right.
Did
So-
you do the same thing? Did you
all
promote
the
the
time.
same?
I started a nonprofit organization. It's called Community Partnerships for Change. And when we're
Community
weighing our-
Partnership for Change. Why isn't Newark in there? How about Newark Community Partnership for
No,
Change?
because why limit it? It could be because a partnership that I developed with MIT. Right, MIT is in.
Okay, so you want to
Boston.
speak to them as well?
I want to have a partnership with London. I want to have a partnership with Paris. I want to have a partnership with Tanzania.
And you want to bring that back down to your ward?
Right, and through my Center for Human Development, through
You also have a
Business
Center for Human
Development,
Development?
$1 million investment that we
Tell me
made.
about, let's do the
So
organization. Go ahead.
so the Center for Human Development.
No, just list them, the ones that you have, what was the first one? The first one you mentioned, and I said you should put Newark in the name. What was that? The community?
So that you mean the thing that we've done?
No, just list the organizations, because you started listing organizations. You list the first one.
Oh,
which
but
is-
but we do.
Are these your organizations that you started, or your
No,
partners?
they're partnerships.
Okay,
That
so
we,
partnerships.
so right. Remember, because I said building partnerships for change.
Right.
So my role, the statutory role of being a legislator and passing the budget, that's by statute. But given the challenge that we face, the additional role that I gave myself, I'm the chief connector, convener, and facilitator of different organizations and different institutions.
That you got involved in.
So that I've met and that I understood what they're doing, and I'm trying to bring them together with other groups and other organizations to leverage the resources so they can do even more. And that's what we've
Resources
done.
meaning money.
No, like I said, the greatest resource, because money is hard to come by, is a person.
Not if you're Cory Booker,
Right.
you know to get it.
Well, that's true. So all of us are not Corey.
Right.
But the greatest resource we have in this, one of the greatest resources in the city, there are 5 universities in the Central Ward, and in the ward that I represent, and 50,000 students go to those 5 universities. If you ask those students to volunteer just 1 hour a week, that's 50,000 hours a week.
So
If you monetize
volunteer is
that,
the resource.
yeah. So if you monetize that, then the Oprah money is
Nothing.
It's nothing. And what will
Because you can
happen?
get the money, but if you don't get the people's heart and
Right, and
taking part,
then you know what happens, because that's what we've done. We've had many students volunteer, and once they volunteer once, they get hooked. So that 1 hour a week comes to 3 hours a week, or maybe twice a week, 3 hours each time, or 6 hours a week. We have to look at resources in a different way, given the fact that we're not going to get money. At the beginning of our interview, our budget deficit might be as high as $50 million. So we can't look to the city budget for money to do those things that are truly important, especially in the lives of young kids who don't have the kind of recreational and enrichment activities that I had when I was a kid growing up in the South Ward.
What about education? While we're on the topic, there's a public school.
Yes, it's horrible, isn't it?
Public school versus charter school. The most hated person in Newark right now is Cammie Anderson.
Yeah.
I've heard, I believe if they get a hold of her, they might take her in the middle of town and start wood fire and start burning her. I don't know. But what's the story of Cammie Anderson, the public school and the charter school?
Well, the way she came to Newark was the wrong way. And for people who understand how former Superintendent Janey came to Newark, that was the appropriate model to follow. When Governor Corzine was in office, he said that Newark is still under state control, the public school system, and we need a new superintendent. But I want to reach out to respective members of the Newark community, form a committee, and I want this committee to take their show on the road, to go to different schools in the different wards, hear from the residents the important qualities they wanted to see in a superintendent. And that's what Corzine did. And then
With
Corzine,
whom at the time?
with who the person, Clifford Janey. But then after they took the show on the road and they heard all the qualities, then they interviewed a number of superintendent candidates. This community group, and based on the qualities that they heard from the residents, this committee, well respected by the community, they made a selection, and Corzine honored the person they selected. It was totally the opposite with Superintendent Anderson, who had a professional relationship with Corey, who had known him. Corey knew Chris Surf, and Corey had a partnership with Governor Christie about education reform.
They're buddies, you know.
So,
right? You see the videos?
Yeah, so I saw that video, right? So there was no community input in that decision at all. So I think from the beginning, right? But then I think the superintendent had an opportunity to do real civic engagement, real community engagement.
She tried though, and she's been booed.
Well,
I was there, and she was trying to speak,
right?
And she was booed down. She was yelled at. They
that
never
is,
gave her a chance to speak.
Well,
I mean, I'm not trying to defend her.
Right, I went to that meeting at Robeson. That's the first time, and she didn't even complete the presentation.
She couldn't.
She ran. And now, but there are people that I know who were assured that they were going to be true partners, right? A partner is a person that you let in to help you plan. A partner isn't a person where you make plans and then you say, okay, so I've made all the decisions without community input, and now I need you to go out there, right, to follow and to give me
follow
support.
my plan. This is our partnership.
And so that's the and so now unfortunately the atmosphere is toxic. We don't know what's going to happen or what can happen, and I think it's going to be increasingly difficult for this superintendent to stay in that role when she has become such a lightning rod for controversy. And it's up to the governor, since we're still state appointed, to make a decision given where we are and the yelling and screaming and the back and forth, and people ideologically, which I don't agree with, dug in pro-charter, anti-charter, pro-district school, anti-district school. But it's hard to believe, for me to believe, that she's going to be able to remain in that role any much longer.
Because the school board voted against her.
Right.
And I was told by her critics that she was going to veto the budget that they just put down, because she did not present an itemized budget. She just presented what she wanted, which is what you said before. Is there any plans that the city council would vote in a resolution with no confidence on her?
Well, a resolution is just that, right? It just expresses that we don't have confidence in her leadership. For example, we voted on a resolution. The resolution was sponsored by Councilman Baraka to put a moratorium on the creation of more charter schools. But that's just an expression that we had. That's no legal impact. But I say to Newark...
But as Newark as a whole, who represents the entire Newark, everybody coming together as one mind, you're sending a message that Newark does not want this to the governor and anybody else. But so you have to basically take that into their face and say, look, the people of Newark does not want what you're offering.
But as we send that symbolic message, right, because we have no legal force, we could do something more.
Well, that's a revolution as a form.
Right, but we could do something more concrete, because I've said this to residents, I've said this to so-called community activists and leaders. What is our plan for now? So assume that we don't get local control back for 6 months or a year or 2 years. What is our plan to improve education for those students who are in schools that are failing now? And if we don't have a plan, if we can't talk intelligently about a plan now, then we are failing our responsibility as leaders. There are concrete things that we can do now.
Such as?
I mentioned that there are 50,000 students in our college universities. Mm-hmm. One concrete thing we can do is that we can meet with our presidents, and I've met with our college presidents, and to put forth a proposal to have college students, honor students, be two things at failing schools: mentors and tutors.
Well, that's a great idea. What happened to it?
That's something. So we have to work on it. But I did that 4 years in a row at the free classes that we offer at Science Park High School. So we had students from Newark Public Schools. We didn't care what school they came from, who needed homework help. They came to our Saturday classes at Science Park High School, and engineering students from NGIT who didn't care what was going on with Candy Anderson, they were happy to see a room full of students who needed to know how to add exponents. So that's what I mean in real time.
Is that
now,
still happening?
Yeah, it's still happening now.
Okay.
In real time now, there are things that we can do. We in my Center for Human Development, the $1 million investment in the basement of Renaissance Towers, we will be videotaping lessons. And yeah, that's it over there.
What is
we,
it?
we will be videotaping
No,
lessons.
what is this Renaissance?
Oh, so this Center for Human Development, I don't think you can get up. Can you reach over there? No. Oh, yeah. And just those two boards, that one and then the one that looks real nice. Yep, just that, right? So this is 4,000 square feet. 4,000 square feet in the basement of Renaissance Towers, right across the street from Dinosaur Barbecue Grill. Mm-hmm. And the city has owned it for over 10 years.
So you just plug them, we're going to have to build them.
Right, so this, right now, it's under construction.
Is this in your ward?
It's technically in the East Ward,
okay.
But it's the only facility of this kind that we can use for this purpose. So this is one block below.
Are you part of this?
Market. This is my initiative.
Oh, okay.
I created this. And thanks to the support of my council colleagues, they voted to give to me for this project $1 million of federal money to totally make this look beautiful. So where you see this is the lobby, this is what the lobby is going to look like. Totally beautiful. Every single one of these rooms will look like this. And we'll have close to 200 computers in all the rooms.
Computers.
Have smart boards in all the rooms. But this is where students from MGIT, students from Rutgers, students from Essex County College can come and do endless activities. So I've entered into about 10 agreements with our colleges, Newark and Beth, to do activities and programs in this space.
And you're getting $1 million for this.
We already got the money, so construction is underway right now as we speak. When I get sworn in, we're going to have a big ribbon cutting.
Okay.
And invite all of our dignitaries, all of our elected officials, all of our presidents of our hospitals and universities, because we're working on a real project with all those stakeholders in this space. And imagine on a Saturday, you can fit close to 200 kids in all these rooms. And now,
so it's additional learning.
It's additional learning because while we wait to get local control,
mm-hmm. You have to do something.
You have to do something because these kids are failing every day in our schools.
So, as a councilman, you're not only helping your ward. If the facility is not available in your ward, you're still going elsewhere. You're using whatever resources you have in your position, in your seat, to help others as well.
Right.
Who's running this ward? Whose ward is this in?
So So this is I asked permission for Councilman Amador because this facility is technically in the East.
Amador, I heard he's not coming back.
Amador, well, I don't know. The only election I'm trying to win or influence is my own election.
So okay, close this because I want to ask you another question.
Okay.
Your opponents. When I walked in, you were telling me something about one of your opponents that seemed very interesting. What was going on there?
Well, they're an important quality.
Call her name because I want to.
And I'm going to mention the person's name. An important quality for any elected official to have is integrity in office. And we are stewards of this incredible asset called city government. And our conduct, our behavior, and how we wield our influence is important. And one of the opponents who I'm running against was a councilperson for 10 years, from 1995 to 2006, and that's Ms. Cheney Field.
Was she a councilperson in your ward or no?
She was at large, so for all 5 wards.
And you're running specifically for the central ward.
Right, and she now is running against me in the central ward. And there were things that she did in office and outside of office, but all under the same category.
Questionable things.
Right, of using power in office and trying to peddle influence while out of office.
Peddle influence meaning?
And one of the big things specifically is a contract that she tried to get the city council back then in 2009, I think it was December 2009, to vote on. She is a founder of a consulting company, development consulting company called the Jericho Group. And she tried to push through the Newark Municipal Council a $350,000 contract for consulting services. And the fishy thing about this is she knew that as of 2005 that the Newark Municipal Council cannot initiate contracts on their own. This contract did not even, that she tried to push through, did not even emanate from the administration. The administration didn't want this contract.
I mean, Cory Booker?
Right, Cory Booker's administration didn't want this contract. And the company at that time, the Jericho Group, was no more than a year and a half old, and their prior year revenue was not even $70,000. So how can a council person who's no longer in office, right, who now claims to be a fiscal hawk and a guardian of the city's precious resources, when she was outside of government, how could she possibly try to push a contract through her company where she had no development experience to speak of, no more than two employees, to push that through? It was luckily thrown out. But even the disclosure forms that she filled out, when you have to say who you contributed to, she gave $4,000 to council members and the Booker team. So this person who runs around now and claims to be anti-Cory Booker, and out of her mouth, Booker sold you the dream, and now we're living a nightmare. Well, I'm going to ask you this very direct question. It is beyond dispute that you donated money to the Booker team. Did you donate money to the Booker team because you believed in Booker? Or did you donate money to the Booker team because you were hoping to advance at some future point a contract through, like the one that you tried to advance?
Isn't that pay to play?
Well, it was, yeah. So you're not allowed to, as a council person, right, to accept money from
anyone that
from developers that are going to do business.
Right.
But the bigger issue with Ms. Cheneyfield is when you hear her presentation, she conveniently leaves out this part. This same councilwoman in 1999, I think it was, flew to Ghana under the guise of a sister city agreement. And she stayed from May the 8th, I think, with other council people to May the 22nd. It's a one-page sister city agreement. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that the city gained as a result of her trip. Well, normally when they go on trade missions, right, you establish trade, you export products to that country, you import things, or there's a cultural exchange. Mm-hmm. I have my office now, we're working on a robust sister city agreement with St. Martin, but there's specific economic components in there, specific education components, and I guarantee you, if we get our agreement done, it is going to be a big, thick document where stakeholders, it is evident and obvious that they came to the table to get this agreement done. So, and this person...
Did you say she went to Ghana?
She went to Ghana.
So she's probably on the beach sipping pina coladas.
Well, no. This was. I don't know. I just know.
So, I mean, what do you go and you come back with a one-page?
Well, there's nothing measurable. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Except for vacation.
Right.
You know, and we're paid on the back of taxpayers. Because did taxpayers put the bill for this?
Yes, it was city funds to pay for the trip to Ghana.
And she came back with a one-page thing.
Well, they had by resolution, the municipal council had a sister city agreement. Right. And I don't. We have a lot of resolutions. There really is just a sister city agreement, as I understand them, and as I have reviewed prior sister city.
Was there any productivity that as a result?
No.
Of the
so that's
right.
the point. That's the point. And normally, and it's great by resolution, right? Remember, we said the resolution to have a moratorium on the charter schools. It really is an expression of something. That's what the resolution is in that instance. But and so it is great to have a sister city agreement with whomever to say that we have some kind of kinship with you.
Right.
But now to use your taxpayer dollars to go
Right. So if
and not bring back anything,
right,
that's a
taxpayers pay
different
this
thing.
money, and
Right.
they're over there for 2 to 3 weeks, and says,
Right.
"Well, what did you bring back?" Well,
So that's the
well, nothing really. So
That's
why
the
did you
point.
go?
That's
and,
the point.
Well, vacation. Well, I can't talk. No, I'm just kidding.
That is
But
that
it
is the
can't-
point. In all of in the 10 years that she's been in office, all the tough places, tough neighborhoods, not only in the Central Ward, but just at large, and she was at large for 10 years. They're very, very difficult neighborhoods in all 5 wards. These projects that I showed you, the building-based computer labs, and all those at-risk places in the Central Ward, there's no evidence that she made any of those investments. But all that's the great thing about debates. One, and that's the great.
Did you
thing.
bring this up in a debate?
Some of the things we touched on.
But
Some
you didn't
things
touch
we
on
touched
this.
on. No, I didn't touch.
Didn't
on
you think this would have been the thing to hammer her on?
Well, we have about 40 days, so there'd be ample opportunity. Maybe
40 days.
occasions.
Wait, May
13th.
13th.
So this is the 4th. This is 4th of April.
So you
we
got
have
35
close to-
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So
about.
there's more than enough time. I'm gonna.
When is your next debate?
I think the 17th of April at the clubhouse. That's a side.
Do you plan to bring this up?
Of course. I don't bring it up because I'm trying to attack her personally. I don't know her that well personally, but I think integrity in office is an important thing. And when you served in office and you've done questionable things, I think people who are going to cast a vote.
So wouldn't you
deserve
think
to
this
know.
is something to bring up in the debate? You want my seat, but look at what you're doing.
So that is I'm gonna engage her on a number of things, and this on her prior record, and this is part of her record in office, and these are the
So
things
she's got a
that
record.
I'm gonna write.
It's not a good record.
Well, it's not a record that I would write home about.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Taxpayers,
Right.
look at a record.
That's what I would
That's
say.
good. What about your other opponents? You got 7, right? 7.
7 other ones. There are 8 of us.
Call them out and tell me why they
Right.
shouldn't get your seat.
Well, because they haven't. So I will name all of them and then give the same reason to all
Right,
of them.
right.
There is Andre Spate. There is
What's his
Victor
issue?
Zamora.
What's his issue?
Well, I don't know. They don't have. And honestly, I don't have our campaign brochure, but ours is thick with accomplishments. I've just seen cards with aspirational statements.
Do you
made
know
by
these
them.
people that are running against you?
I know all of them with the exception of one. So there's a Cedar Adams. Let me mention him because he's the youngest. I think he's 24. There is Miss Cheney Field. There's Mr. Sean McCrae. There's Victor Zamora. There is Andre State. There is Miguel Arce. And then there is, I think I'm missing one other
If you
one.
can't remember his name, it's not important.
Right, and I don't want to say it because I don't want my voters to remember those names. But I will say none of them have the record, none of them have the breadth and depth of experience that I have just in government. I was in this building before as the chief of staff to then Mayor Booker, and so I understood how
Oh,
government
that's
works.
right. You were booked as chief of staff.
Right.
I forgot about that.
And then I was, in terms of, I learned community organizing from the.
So you're very
early
experienced.
years.
Before you were councilman, you were booker staff.
Yeah, and then even
And so
way
this
back.
is, wait, from the beginning, I was trying to find out
Yeah.
what got you to the. I think that's it, because you were already in the office. You're seeing what's going on. You're there. You know about resolutions
then I
and
understood,
ordinance.
right.
So it was easy to jump into the picture.
Well, I was familiar with
Right.
the rhythm of City Hall and how things work.
So that was my first question to you when we just got started. What got you involved?
But not even that, no, because prior to that, way back when, in the late 80s, I was the deputy chief of staff and conflicts way to Nick Amato. He was the county executive.
Mhm.
So my introduction to government was long before 98.
So you've been walking around a long time, just looking and
So
seeing.
you have to listen, right?
Uh-huh.
You have to learn,
Right,
and then you can lead.
right.
And what I would say about the majority of the council, the people running for this seat, and I respect many of them, but in terms of the breadth and depth of experience in concrete things, tangible results and deliverable, far and above any of them. We've done more prior to me even coming here, but certainly since we've been in the Central Ward, it's not even close.
So you're the guy that they go to say, train me to get a council seat.
Well, I look forward to working with them because I take some of them at their word that they want to run because they want to represent the city, the Central Ward, and move it forward. And I'm going to test that after my re-election. I want to reach out to them and the constituents that they represent, the residents that they represent. I want to hear from them. They're great ideas.
Now, why haven't these ideas come forward? And before I get you to answer that, Wayne, after their re-election, before the elections, everybody was at the council meeting yelling, "You're this, you're that, you're the bad guy." And then after the election, it was empty. And so I went to the council meeting and I spoke and I said, listen, what happened to all the people who said they love Wayne so much and they're going to be here every time? They're nowhere to be found. So I think that maybe is happening in your case where after the election they'll just scatter, but you're willing to say, hey guys, don't run.
Oh, of course. I need them.
Yeah.
I desperately need them. Desperately need them to implement a lot of the things that we started 4 years ago. And I want to work with them out of a spirit of respect and partnership. I can't say that I love this city, the ward, and after a hard fought campaign, just have a grudge, because then I'd be a hypocrite,
right?
And I hoped that the last time around, those 6 people that ran against me would engage.
What happened to that?
You'd have to ask.
They ran away again, which is what I said. Everybody wants the office, and if they don't get it, they run away.
Right.
They don't stay and fight. Right. Half the people, I looked at this as 8 people here, 8 people there, 4 people there, 3 there. And I come to the council meeting, I have not seen them at the council meeting. I have not seen them engage any one of you guys or even come around just to pull a resolution and take a look and see what's happening. I've never seen them. Some of these faces, I just saw somebody and I'm running for the ward, and I said, I've never seen you. But they've got a really beautiful card, or you have one of the city council, and I said, but I don't even know who you are. Yes. And then there's somebody else, and she said, oh yeah, I've been around for a long time, I'm not going to call her name. But you've been around in certain areas. But if you want to run the entire show and get a hold of one of the shifts, you have to be over here so I can see you, so the community can see you, so you can keep up with what the laws and the resolutions and the ordinances and the cameras, the lights, and all these things that happen.
And look, and the funny thing, and I'm glad that the same thing, because this is what a lot of the opponents are saying. Councilman Sharif, people say they haven't seen him. Now, let's just
come to the council again.
Well, just be frank, right? I'm sure they could find 1 or 2 people who could say that. There are 55,000 people in the Central Ward, 33,000 registered voters. When we campaign, that's the opportunity that we get to meet the maximum number of people because we have to knock on doors. That's what I did. I met thousands of people in 2010. But once I got elected, I had to shift from campaign mode to get work done mode. Imagine, if you will, if after I got elected and got sworn in July 2010, I just continued in campaign mode, waking up every single day, not developing great partnerships like this, not initiatives, none of those things, but continuing to knock on doors for 3.5 years. When I came up for re-election, wherever I went or in a debate, and somebody said to me, Councilman, what have you done? And if my response was, oh no, I know I just had to keep knocking on doors, meeting people, I'm up to now 29,355 people, they would run me out of town with a pitchfork. I am seen in all of the initiatives that we have created that have benefited hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Residents wanted me to go to City Hall and get work done, not hang out all day, like riding up and down different streets, walking different streets, giving people a high five, yo, what's up, street? They would be disappointed in me, and I would be disappointed in myself. So it is good for us to say our work speaks for itself and to point people to the work that we have done. But those people who are running this way, they know that. They know we've done real things. And rather than focus on those things, now you could focus on the merit of these investments. That's fair game. But you can't say that we haven't done real important things in the ward. And I would never campaign. I would acknowledge something that somebody did and try to make a case as to why that was not the right thing to do. But I wouldn't say, oh no, you didn't do that. And it's unfortunate. But, we understand.
So they're
how
saying you didn't do stuff when you did do stuff.
Right. So they say, well, where have you been? Well, I've been in here.
Where you sent me.
Right, where you sent me to, know. So in order to imagine how much work you have to do to secure $1 million. Imagine how much work you have to do to sit down with contractors to make sure that the thing that you are going to build, right, you've got to go to meetings. These 5 computer labs, who wrote the proposals, who sat in the meetings. So all that requires work. And for people who don't want to acknowledge that, it's sad. But people who don't know that you've got to invest that amount of time, they really don't understand how the office works.
So it's like a parent having a kid who came home and says, we love you being home, but get a job.
Right, exactly. And one senior citizen said to me, because I said I was trying to win her over 4 years ago, and she said, when I won her over, I said, I'm going to be down at City Hall, but I'm not going to be, I'm going to come visit you on a regular basis. And this great wise person said, I don't want to see that ugly face. I want you down at City Hall. That's why I voted for you. So I never forgot that she said that to me. And those people who say that people haven't seen me, they say it because for a selfish reason. Because
they want to win, and they want to remove you.
And people know that, so I'm never bothered by that.
So now, finally, you get to go back after 4 years and say, look, what I've done where you sent me.
Yes.
I may not have been here at your doorstep, but that's not where you wanted me.
Exactly.
You wanted me in City Hall, and so I'm coming back after 4 years to say, look at what I've done in 4 years for you. Let me finish the job. Let me continue what I'm doing. And tell the naysayers, if they want to stay home with you in your house, they can do that.
Exactly.
But when you vote for me, you send me up there to work for you.
There you go.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
No, I just want to thank you, for this exhaustive, and I really respectfully mean that, because debates are a combination of fiction, theater, and entertainment, where you've got to have a little zinger. But for people to be able to watch this, and
we've had a little zinger when she went over there with the people.
So, but to have people now have a better understanding of how I spent my 4 years and how I've defined my relationships with the residents that I've been privileged to represent through programs, initiatives, and activities that benefit them. This is the perfect way to do it. So I thank you for conducting the interview. And thank you for coming to our council meetings. And yes, you can borrow a little corner where I sit.
I'm always nervous you're not from the camera.
No, I'm always
mindful.
mindful.
$2,000.
I'm always mindful that it's right behind me. But I thank you so much.
Except sometimes you block me when I'm trying to get to the. You do. I didn't want to bother you because I know you.
So next time you have to give me the cough signal. So
right. Because sometimes I want a reaction shot from the people. But you know what? I might actually bring a stand next time because sometimes you have something to say. And you're speaking back, and they have to move the camera over. And I want, because you hardly talk, because you sit there and you listen, and I know you're smart, because you're watching people, and you don't say anything, but I know you have a lot to say. But I know sometimes when the speakers come up and they yell and they scream, it's not good to go back and forth.
Well, I don't, and then so I know we're about to sign off in a second, but I do want to respond to that. I fight for the right for speakers to come and put me on full blast and speak.
Well, don't encourage it. I mean,
but that's their right. That's their.
There'll be actions and hackers and.
Now, if they ask me questions, right? If they're really interested in engaging me and not going back and forth and yelling and screaming, I'll engage. But imagine if somebody said something negative at me and then I went back and moved back and forth. And I always know I'm doing the right things because when I see senior citizens in the ShopRite in Kearney, one senior said to me, Councilman, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She said, do you take some kind of pill for the meeting? Because you're always like this, it's so quiet. And they said to me, like, how can you take it? And I say, I live for that. I really do. Right? Sticks and stones, right, can break your bones, and words will never hurt you. So,
or maybe, wait, sticks and stones may break your bones, but only if I engage you, you can,
Right, and so as long as the person's not gonna, and I never feel, because I always, when you have police around, I think that's kind of too much. I never feel that my life is in any kind of danger. These are the individuals who, a lot of them I've known for a long time. And when they're mad at me, that's their right to be mad. And sometimes almost once the camera's turned off, they give you like a big hug.
It's true. I'm not going to say her name, but she was blasting this councilman, and when he got off the stage, and she said, "You're not coming back, right? We'll see ya." And then when they walked up, she went and she hugged him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
That happened just recently because I was looking in the back of the room, and so I love this city, and the greatest thing about this city, and I actually mean
Free
that,
speech
are
and-
free speech and the
yeah.
people. We have the best people in this country, and we have the greatest resources here. We just need the right leadership, right, to maximize and leverage those resources.
Well, in your view, they have the right leadership, and you want them to keep that.
I want them to keep this.
You don't want them to make a mistake and choose somebody else that's already bargaining with contracts and underhanded things.
Exactly right.
And people who are trying to climb your mountain
Exactly
with
right.
something you've built for them, you want them to do that. Not that
So
I'm
I want
trying to force you.
I want the collective people to push them back down the mountain.
This is not your mountain,
Right.
Go find your own.
Exactly right.
Run for at large or something else.
Exactly.
You have 5 staff members. I know there's an issue with that.
5 staff members. And there's a ridiculous thing, right? We always do the ridiculous comparison to Jersey City. One, technically, my job is a part-time job. That's laughable.
What's your
I'm
salary?
not,
What's your council salary?
I think it's in the maybe
80,000 a year.
or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
to double Patterson.
Right. So now, but I work. Right. I don't have another full-time job. So this job is full-time for me. In 4 years, I've only missed one council meeting. Just one meeting.
Oh, don't say
And
that.
that's because we had a horrible snowstorm, and I didn't know that very next day, where I had something already previously scheduled that they were going to have a makeup meeting that day. I've probably been to 98% of the pre-council meetings, and the public never got to see the pre-council meetings prior to me putting forth a resolution.
So you think you need the 5 members of your staff?
Yes, because you know what? Because all of these initiatives that we do, right? Who do you think does that? All the resources that we find and we administer, these staff people, they're amazing. The number of people who come into City Hall just looking for services, we have 2 full-time staff people that are like intake people. So people who are looking for housing, rental assistance, assistance from abuse. We do that. The free classes that we offer at Science Park High School on Saturday, who do you think mans the fort? The Day of Giving, every single year, it's a half-year planning thing of getting people to donate services.
So your 5 staff members keeps all these things going
Yes, they do.
and moving.
They
If you
absolutely
lose
do.
2 of them, what would happen?
Are you kidding me? So those would be services that residents wouldn't have because they help to administer the services, and the number of things that we will be able to do for them would decrease because they're directly related to the staff being able to help administer those services. And that's what we use those staff people for.
Because they're talking about the budget and saving money by cutting your staff, but you're saying if they cut the staff, they cut services.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? They cut services. This, our municipal budget is 2%. 2% of the entire budget. The council budget, add all of our people up together, that's 2%.
Wouldn't even make a dent.
It would not be. Then we're talking about a $30 million budget deficit.
But you're taking
That's
away
not
services.
Right, you're taking away. It wouldn't make a dent, but it would make a huge dent in the lives of people who come to rely on the services that we provided. So this, for me, is not only a necessary but an important investment, and the return on that investment is the person that gets that direct service.
So if they come to you and they say, look, why haven't I reached you? I had to cut 2 people, or the mayor cut 2 people. Because both Ramos, who's supporting Shava, is talking about cutting your staff. And your argument is going to be, it's only 2%. It doesn't touch your budget that you have to bring down, the 98%. So, but what you will damage is people when they come to me.
Oh, for sure.
I'm short service, so now I have to explain to them why I couldn't reach you on time.
And then and I don't know, and I respect my council colleague immensely, Councilman Ramos, and my other council colleagues. I don't know what they do and how to utilize their staff, and it's up for them, right, in their respective wards, to look at what the challenges are that they see in their ward, and to say, in order to address the challenges that I identify or that people communicated to me, this is how I'm going to employ my staff to do that. I would have to know a lot more about the challenges in the North Ward, the West Ward, the East.
Well, I think for them it's more of an
South.
expression of I'm trying to do right by you. But if you have $1 million in your pocket and you say, well, I'm not going to use this pen because it's cost $5,
Right.
and that's how, honest I am with you. I'm not going to use a $5 pen when I got $1 million. It's kind of like an expression. This is your $5 pen. I'm not going to use it. I think that's the argument that they're making. When the people would probably say, you know what, I need your $5 pen to sign up on
Right
things that
now, and this is what I would say, is I don't think people begrudge county people having access to resource, right? A car is a resource, staff is a resource.
Or they just-
They want to know how you use that resource. And
No.
whether or not for the use of that resource, the investment of that resource, there's a return that inures to me as a constituent. So, for example, I took a trip in my car, right, to Boston. Now, if somebody said, oh my goodness, he went to Boston. And then if somebody said, no, what did you go to Boston for?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I went to MIT to develop an agreement with them so that as a result of that meeting, hundreds of kids will learn how to be computer programmers. Then I would hope that a resident would say, well, that's an appropriate use of that resource to go there. Now, if somebody said, well, whenever I spot him, he's, at a shopping mall in his car, that's a different use of that resource. So I think, right now...
Unless you're on your way home and he said, look, instead of going over changing cars
Right.
and coming back, you can just go to the store and buy something for heaven's
And
sake.
that trip that I took, right, it was a day trip where I went with a member from Newark Public Schools. And I think a reasonable person would say, like, of course.
But some people running for office is saying, look, I don't use the taxpayer's car and I don't use...
But that's ridiculous. So I'm not going to hide. So again, that's what... And so people say to me, you're not a conventional politician because you're open and you're straight up with people. And I'm not going to just pander to people, get people to vote for me and say, if I get reelected, I'll never use a car, right?
Mhm.
We used during Hurricane Sandy, and we have pictures, we used my truck so many times to cart supplies and food from one place to the next. And again, if a person realizes that we use resources like this, the computers that were donated from UMD&J for the computer lab that we established in 2011 at New Hope Village, we packed those computers up in that truck. So I think people, when they know like how you use the resource, they would say, yes, Councilman, that's an appropriate use of that resource because you have brought back a measurable benefit. So as long as you're bringing things to help people, you're enriching the community, enriching the lives, right? I drove my car to Kane University to structure a relationship to identify and totally make beautiful free lots. And that relationship, Kane invested easily over $10,000. So somebody's going to say, oh, he drove his car to the Union.
So the bottom line is you need your resources.
I need the resources for the kind of things that I do that have benefited people.
The benefit. So if you have a medicine that is cheap and it takes 5 days to work, and then you have a medicine that is a little more expensive and takes 1 day to work, you're saying this is just not where you should choose to cut your budget.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I can
would argue against that. Yeah.
I can use my car and whatever I can do, but you get it 5 months later, or I can use the resources that you have, let me have right now, I can get it for you faster, which is why you need these 5 staff members to get the things done for you.
Right.
You take it away, which doesn't damage the budget in any way, because you're saying the entire budget for the city is only 2%.
It's only 2%.
And you're like a percent of that 2%.
It's like a pimple on the, what of a rhinoceros.
Right, so you can say, well, although it's a symbolic statement
Right.
to say that you're going to take these things away, the real damage is when you come to City Hall looking for me and you can't find me, or looking for me to do all these work for me and I don't have it.
That is
Last
true.
word on you.
No, I just said thank you. My ballot number is C1. The election is May 13th.
Wait, you got the first name on the ballot?
God was shining on me, brother. So 8 people went into that thing, they turned it, and they pulled it out, and God said, you're doing God's work.
So it's like that's symbolic. Like I'm the guy on top of the mountain. I'm the guy to beat. I've been here, build a mountain, and you say
So all they have to do is go to that voting booth on that first level.
You don't even have to look any further.
On that second level, all those people running at large. That third level, that first person there, C1. I want you
In the
to
Central Ward.
in the Central Ward.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate
it.
Thank you.
And that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Council President Mildred does a great job cutting people off.
She does. I call her our fearless leader, and I think the reason she does such a great job is because she's been a veteran in the community for so long, but on the council, and she is very, very respectful, but she's firm.
She does what Bonnie Watson does.
Oh,
Before you're fired, if you go up there, she will specifically tell you have 30 seconds, and if you took 10 seconds to tell her that 30 seconds.
She does
and
a good job.
she does a great job. If you can tell Donna Jackson when to stop, and almost get it to stop, and she stopped, and Cassandra Don, you're doing a great job.
And we've noticed since she's come on, just in terms of being able to manage things, and that's your role. You've got to be the keeper of the time, and you have to, in a way, but you have to be respected. Even people who disagree with her from time to time, they respect her. It was unfortunate that a couple of days ago we had with one resident, and it got, I don't know if you were there.
I came in late.
The resident had to be escorted out, but those kind of incidents have been few and far between since Councilwoman Crum.
I remember Donna Jackson goes, I need a minute. She goes, you just had a minute.
Yes. And then the way she does it, you know, it's just, it
That's
comes
what she
to
said a minute ago.
Yeah.
And then she's good at constantly letting them know you're in. You had your 5 minutes. Let's respect the person behind you. So I think she
gets a lot of kudos. This is unprecedented.
These are the developments that took place while you were councilman?
Yeah, 90% of this. Like Baxter Park, this is NGIT, their gateway project for the dorms for their students. Bio Trials, this is going to come. This is a pharmaceutical company based out of Paris, and their North American headquarters is going to be in the Central Ward. This is a Greek Village project, the Springfield Marketplace with the ShopRite right across the street from the Dunkin' Donuts of Springfield Avenue. There are homes, and then on the backside, 15th Avenue for senior citizens. Cityplex 12, that's going to be a great thing. There are going to be 45 units of affordable brownstones and a 5-story senior place affordable in the ward. Residents down at Symphony Hall, Montgomery Heights, which is on MLK Boulevard. All this stuff. It's just great stuff. The old Science Park High School. People who went to Science High School on Rector Street, when it's built, it's going to be great. Luxury apartments.
When is that going to be built?
We had the ribbon cutting. I can't remember.
Oh, so you already broke ground on that?
Yeah, and then this is the potential office towers, and that's going like crazy. That's Teachers Village, and I think 3 of the 8 buildings are built Haynes. That's an exciting project. And on the ground level, there's going to be Whole Foods and luxury apartments there. Just so many things in the Central Ward.
Where is City Hall? I guess this is City Hall, right?
No, this is Broad Street. So City Hall it's over here.